The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Don't let your decision paralysis demon keep you from watching something great this weekend. Subscribe to ScreamShare, the newsletter that serves up a 5-minute breakdown of the best horror available on streaming. I'll have essential weekly movie picks covering new films, classics that you need to catch up on, and a movie that's always streaming for free. So subscribe now, and you can even be a part of some frighteningly fun watch parties we're putting together that'll let you be a part of the conversation. So click in the link in the show notes or go to screamshare.beehive.com. That's screamshare.beehive.com, and make sure you whitelist your welcome email so you can get updates for all of the news and updates. And now the body count continues. Ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, dying time is here. That's right. We're talking about The Crazies 2010 on ReMarch on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Ogden, March. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. So we're going to unpack all the goriest details of 2010's The Crazies in the hopes that a townsperson's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we can make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust to make sure I'm properly pitchforked if I'm strapped down to a table, the one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
But are you scared, or are you like crazying out and just like maniacally cackling as you face your doom? Because I really hope I'm maniacally cackling at that point.
As the way things are going, maniacally cackling is in my future.
I mean, I'm just pretty much doing that all the time anyway. I'm just like,
oh my God, we're just a pair of jokers.
Yep.
In a real folie à deux. If that movie had succeeded, what would the third one have been called?
I mean, menage a trois, clearly.
Oh, you're right. When you're right, you're right. Damn, fucking assassin from the outside. So now we've seen the highs, we've seen the lows. Now it's time to talk about an unlikely success story, right? Something that does not have the cultural cachet it deserves, but makes something work, not out of an unlikely source, right?
Right. Because
had you seen the original before watching the remake?
You know, I don't remember. I was a latecomer to the remake.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to rehash how I felt about that period of movies when they originally came out. Yeah. But I had heard enough times that the remake of The Crazies was actually legitimately good on its own merits. So I was like, you know what? Like maybe like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, I'll give it a try. And I was genuinely impressed by it. Yeah. And I must have seen the original probably within the same time period and just remember feeling like, okay.
Yeah. It's interesting because I had seen it on VHS during my Blockbuster watch Alien to Zardoz days. And I was like, okay, that's a Romero movie. I get it. But I didn't, there's varying levels of appreciation for it out there. I think there are some who will tell you that's upper tier Romero, and others who, like myself, I think it's mid. From a filmmaker, I think genuinely cares about every movie he makes. I don't think he really ever steps off the gas. There's just a success rate level. And to me, that original 73 movie is a way for Romero to recontextualize Night of the Living Dead in a way that would allow him some ownership over that, because he's so royally screwed by a lack of trademark on his 1968 film. You are talking about a movie that part of its success was the fact that anyone could show it at any time, but that completely invents the modern idea of zombies. Like, Romero should have been rich from that.
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
And he isn't. And to put this in some sort of context, because we haven't done zombies on the show too often, we haven't. Part of that is because what would we? We'd have to tackle it, right? But to me, it would be pretty samey.
Yeah, we'd have to just basically create a list of, wildly varying takes on it.
Yes, I agree. And maybe it is something that we, rather than having an entire season of it where we dip in and out, we make a dedicated month to it that we revisit every year, sort of deal, like we're doing with ReMarch. I don't know. You tell us. Tell us what you would like in that circumstance. But it should be noted here that before Night of the Living Dead, zombies in media were essentially racist colonial propaganda. I'm not just being woke to be woke. I mean, that is the point of them.
Yeah, that's been pretty well established.
And we should probably dig into Night of the Living Dead at some point with like a real multi-volume examination, because you're talking about a movie who the basic setup of it is repeated over and over and over again as a siege picture. There's many siege pictures in the world. Rio Bravo is a great siege picture. But to boil it down, Romero is putting Vietnam conflict engaged post-civil rights era America under a microscope, just putting it all on a hot plate and turning up the heat to see what happens. You say that, and there are still quite a few horror fans out there who just insist that there's no greater meaning to the ending and that Dwayne Jones just happened to give the best audition. Right.
Which he may have.
I'm sure he did.
But
also, there's a distinct reason why he was cast, the distinct reason why the movie plays out the way it does. You have both invented and enforced conflicts within that house and within the world in general under the auspice of what's going on, racism, generational mistrust. And they're so involved in those that it's almost like they're doing that to avoid the real issue of the cannibalistic undead outside the doors of the house. Whereas Romero's Crazy isn't that much different when it comes to the basic plot of something happens. There's an accident outside of town that releases this chemical/biological virus agent that infects people who either die or go rapidly insane. You have a military operation that's designed to corral the townspeople and contain the outbreak. It was not well managed. Again, I don't know that any single person had worse luck when it came to the movies that he made than George Romero, because this is a movie that probably would have torn it up on a lot of drive-in screens and done well, despite its political underpinnings. It's still reasonably entertaining. And in 73, people are looking for more challenging output anyways. But it only recouped about 50% of its budget because they didn't release it on enough screens. They couldn't afford to. His distributor essentially went bankrupt underneath it. And then as a result, the rights to it kind of languish, and you have pretty poor home video transfers that are essentially duping the VHS until very recently. I think Arrow has a very clean, nice looking transfer of the movie. But like all films of the era, it's very informed by the ongoing Vietnam War, America's pessimism about funneling youth and blood into that, the sacrifice it takes to win a conflict in which we're not gaining much out of it, and the feeling that we're funding an out-of-control military-industrial complex that was too excited to discover ways to kill people and never considering whether or not they should. Plus, it has one of George's signature feel-bad endings.
Yeah, and it's got like, I think the thing that really pulled me out of it is the whole like incestuous rape thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this feels sort of, if you pardon the terrible choice of words, feels forced to make it a little grimier, a little more exploitative.
Yeah.
And that I would normally never use the word exploitative with any of Romero's films.
Yeah.
I think gritty, certainly. Like one of my favorite Romero movie is Martin, which, gets very gritty and very bleak. But never feels like it's deliberately trying to push some buttons.
Yeah.
This feels like, well, we need to kind of kick things up a notch.
Yes.
So let's have an incestuous rape. And I'm like, must you?
Must you? Yes.
I mean, I realize it is a shortcut to describe, how out of control things have gotten.
Yes. And it should be noted that in between the Crazies and the remake here, you also have, I believe it's 1983, a film called Impulse. Have you ever seen Impulse?
That Meg Tilly, I think.
Meg Tilly, yes.
Yeah, I have seen that. I don't remember a lot about it, but I know it's got the same general concept as the Crazies.
Yes, it's basically the same scenario. But you basically have this incident that happens outside of town, and over the course of the film, the townspeople go steadily more and more. Their impulse control is taken away from them. So all of it, they lose all morality. They lose the ability to regulate themselves. And so it's not that they're necessarily crazy. It's that anything that would have stopped them from doing the first thing that comes to mind is taken away from them. And it's the most it's hard to call it relaxed, but there's no driving force. There's no, the big outside containment element isn't as prevalent as a driving force of the narrative. It is more like a drama that happens to contain a sci-fi concept to it. And Tim Matheson gives a pretty layered performance in it that it's like a dramatic performance I actually buy. It feels like the Andromeda strain.
Right.
Without the hardcore sci-fi trappings. And that crashes on impact. It just doesn't do anything. I guess it was 84. But it was one of those, like National Lampoon's Class Reunion, another ABC motion picture.
Our favorite movie. That's Lampoon's Class Reunion. That unearthed treasure.
Yeah. But there's no cult of Impulse. There is a decent Blu-ray of it. If you can find it, I do wonder if it's one of those movies that is available to stream. I'm going to look that up real fast so that people know. 1984. Yeah. I don't know that it is on streaming. You can watch the trailer. It doesn't seem to have a rip on YouTube.
But
if you can find that Blu-ray, like, it is interesting, and I don't know that I would schedule it on the show because I can't really say it's a horror movie. It's more of a thriller. I don't even know it's a thriller. I think it's got drama.
It's got some sci-fi aspects to it, I would say. I did actually find. I think I found a rip of it on YouTube. But.
Oh, let's see. There you go. You never know because there is some nudity involved in it, and YouTube does seem to clamp down on such things. But it also appears to be somebody uploaded it, but in multiple parts, which is always the best way to watch a feature film. Really,
especially when they're missing a part.
Right, because one part's been taken out.
Exactly.
The way it was meant to be seen.
Where's part 6?
Yeah. Which I'm not sure that is something that anyone has yelled while watching the multi-part version of Impulse. if you can make that into a vertical drama and put it on TikTok, I bet it's going to go over great. The way Hume Cronin was meant to be consumed. So, in terms of the timing of this, you're at the tail end of the big remake rush that starts with The Ring, intensifies with Texas Chainsaw, and people start to hate by 2010. Not helped at all by the Nightmare on Elm Street remake doing over 100 mil at the box office and resoundingly being a terrible fucking movie. We've discussed it. But in terms of the timing of why you would want to remake it, 2010 is actually a pretty decent time to do this. If you weren't going to do it in the 90s, I think because we were once again a country that was fueled by a war that had become a quagmire, you're nearly a decade into the Afghanistan and Iraq conflicts that, needlessly cost us so many lives, resources, not to mention trillions of dollars. It's why we can't have nice things. So why not do it again? Not to mention the 2008 real estate bubble bursting due to years of regulatory malfeasance by all three branches of federal power. Abandonment of small town America for any number of reasons, but you don't necessarily get the impression that Ogden Marsh is in dire straits necessarily, because you don't have time for so much local politics into it, although it does enter into it at one point. But it doesn't so much transmute the original, but eliminate the military half of the original. In the original, you have a sort of makeshift foursome where you've got these two Vietnam vets who are firefighters, and then you've got a father and a teenage daughter, and you can tell by Gina's comments earlier how that turns out. And then you have, on the other half of the movie, you have this military leadership of these squads who have been sent in to clean up this toxic outbreak. And so what I think this version of the movie benefits from is narrowing the main focus to the townspeople and specifically one small burgeoning both family unit in David and Judy Dutton, and then David's deputy Russell, and then you have Judy's medical office assistant Becca. So
it's
underage-ish.
It's actually, I think, I think The Walking Dead, certainly the first season, owes perhaps unintentionally owes a little bit of a debt to the Crazies,
right? Because
The Walking Dead, the first season, why it remains the best season in my opinion, is because it focuses on the human aspects of it,
right? And
these survivors sort of just coming together, and with varying degrees of reluctance, working together. And, there's a lot of drama because certainly with the characters of Rick and then I've regrettably forgotten his wife's name, and Shane, you've got this, this sort of love triangle that admittedly kind of drags the plot at times, but it's still there, and it still, adds conflict to, the classic, we don't have time to deal with this right now. Oh, we're going to deal with it anyway, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, there's a lot of that element. If you appreciated that about The Walking Dead, that you would like The Crazies, because, that's, people forced to work together to keep themselves alive.
Yeah. And the compressed time frame of this also really helps. That when the incubation period is 48 hours, so it either works on you or it doesn't. And so there's one way out. Like you are slowly decomposing, but you you are murderous from the word go. Once,
you're literally just losing your humanity minute by minute.
Yeah. So you're not so much a zombie, so much as you're 28 days later infected, which, makes sense. And it allows for fast zombie action. And I think the other element that really works in the movie's favor is its abundance of action. It becomes less of we have to hold out in this one location rather than we have to escape this extended location being surrounded by these forces that you can't control and cannot communicate with. And we really only talk to two military sources the entire time. One scared kid who is freaked out by what he's been asked to do, and a military advisor who basically does a little bit of a lore dump on them before he's unceremoniously capped in the head.
It's awesome. You're going to love it.
I am
I'm going to give it to you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. If you're shopping while working, eating, or even listening to this podcast, then you know and love the thrill of the hunt. But are you getting the thrill of the best deals? Rakuten shoppers do. They get the brands they love with the most savings and cash back. And you can get it too. Start getting cash back at your favorite stores and even stack sales on top of cash back. It's easy to use and you get your cash back through PayPal or check. The idea is simple. Stores pay Rakuten for sending them shoppers, and Rakuten shares the money with you as cash back. Download the free Rakuten app and never miss a deal. Or go to Rakuten.com to start getting the most bang for your buck. That's RAKUTEN.
Thanks, Ashley, for being here. You are.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Just a little bit of backstory here, because I do find this a little bit fascinating. So this starts off really when Texas Chainsaw kicks off. It starts at Paramount. The original screenwriter who took this on was Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Amityville Horror remake screenwriter Scott Kozar. So you're talking about two very different versions of quality remakes there. That's wildly different.
Yes.
But he never really got it completely off the ground. And Paramount kind of slow rolls it. It eventually gets put into turnaround and picked up by Universal subsidiary Rogue Pictures, which was one of their sort of genre offshoots. And the next writer to take it up is Ray Wright, who was one of the screenwriters on the Pulse remake, who wasn't Wes Craven. Wes Craven was taken off of Pulse to make Cursed, a movie we have not covered, but you're talking about a movie with the craziest fucking backstory. Did you know that movie was made 3 times over the course of 2 years?
I did not. That is the werewolf movie with Christina Ricci?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we might have to cover that movie.
We so rarely do werewolf movies.
I think we were kind of saving it for a werewolf season, right? Because you could do a werewolf season. There's a lot, but we've also dabbled in werewolves over the years. Despite the fact that one of your favorite movies of all time is American Werewolf in London, we haven't discussed.
We have not, no, but we've done Wolfen.
We've done Wolfen. We've done Wolf.
And we've done Wolf, and we've done the Wolf Band, which I've already forgotten about.
And we did the Stephen King one.
Silver Bullet.
Silver Bullet. All right. So yeah, we've been slow rolling Wolfmans. But yes. Oh my God. That story is fascinating. But Ray Wright is the screenwriter who kind of takes it up under the director, director Breck Eisner, who kind of comes into this while it's at Rogue. Eisner is the son of Michael Hello Eisner, who was the head of Paramount, or he was the head of production at Paramount for a very long time. He and his kid had gone through film school, did tons of TV and commercial directing, and he gets his big break at his dad's old studio, Paramount, in the form of one of the 2000s biggest flops, 2005's Sahara.
Oof.
Yeah. A movie that's not as bad as you've heard. It's just not good. I think,
but not good, but not bad enough to be great.
Yes, it's not like it might not be good. It might be great. I think there's performances in there okay, but there's like they want it to be fun and it's not fun, and it's also one of those rare. So like it comes from the Dirk Pitt series from author Clive Cussler, who is one of those. He's an author your dad reads, right?
Right.
And everyone seemed to eye the whole Dirk Pitt series as, all right, this could be Paramount's stab at a James Bond or an Indiana Jones. But the film limped past what you would think would be successful, the $100 million mark. But the problem is that its original budget was 80 and its final budget was $160 million. And this essentially tanks Matthew McConaughey's career for like 6 years before the reconnaissance brought him back into favor. And up until recently, where he started to do a series of the worst fucking AI commercials of all time. Can we talk about the sales agent commercials for a second? I know I've been talking for a bit. I will shut up after this. The sales agent commercials seem to have a particular drive to them. There's a game to them in which Matthew McConaughey has been forced to do something by an AI agent that would seem stupid and ridiculous because he's using a bad one. Whereas his best friend in life and Maha expert on the other side is not listened to that agent and is having the best time at a restaurant he's not at a table in the rain. My favorite is that one where he's in the rain and he's handed shrimp and he's like, I don't even like shrimp. Motherfucker, you have willpower. You have agency. You can say, I don't want to sit in the rain when it's raining. Who would serve you shrimp in the rain? Why would this make me want to use Salesforce? Every commercial is dumber than that. But they are all built on the same stupid fucking premise of anyone with half a brain would say, no, I don't want a pelvic exam. I don't have a vagina.
Yeah, it's like how is this selling me on your product?
These are dumb. Every single one of them is dumber than the last. And it makes your product seem like the dumbest fucking idea I've ever heard of. There's no way this improves my life. If you were stupid enough to eat shrimp in the rain and you didn't even order it, Salesforce is not going to help you. Society's decided you need to die. You're going to die off of pneumonia with a shrimp in your mouth, you fucking idiot. I also, it needs to be said, that Clive Cussler sued the producers of Sahara for $100 million because he alleged a whole bunch of legally dubious shit. The producers...
Also because this movie sucked.
The movie sucked. He was big mad about it. Please don't put in the newspaper I'm mad about, but please sue. They went back and forth for nearly a decade, and I don't think he won a single fucking judgment. And ultimately... the battle of who would pay the legal fees for all of this got decided in 2012. And they're just like, stop suing one another. And in the meantime, he was so wrapped up in this that across America, dads found new books to read. Like, he used to be in every airport, and now he's probably not. And I think when you spend that much time being big mad at a movie that didn't go well, when you are a best-selling author, it's like, fuck, man, just like live with it. What are you going to do? What were we talking about again? All right. So this is the last major motion picture Breck Eisner ever directs. That's not true. This is the best work that Eisner ever did. He does wait one other movie. 5 years later, he makes The Last Witch Hunter, the passion project of the notoriously very easy to work with Vin Diesel. A movie supposedly Vin Diesel would like to make a sequel to. And I wonder why, because I think The Last Witch Hunter made 2 dimes and you have to rub them together really hard to make.
When you said that, I was thinking Nicolas Cage?
Yeah, no. Maybe it would have been better.
I was going to say, that sounds like a very Nicolas Cage title.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is one where Nick Cage involves a witch, but I think that's a medieval one where he's got a witch in a cage, and then he's like, I don't know if that person in a cage is a witch. And then guess what, Gina? Person in that cage is a witch.
What?
I know. It's super crazy. But Rogue gets sold off to a place called Overture. Overture gets assumed by some place called Participant Media, who used to pay me to write for their stuff for their cable channels. Remember cable? And then it eventually limps onto movie screens and does okay. It does okay. But I think it legitimately suffers from remake fatigue. Although, if you ask the vast majority of people, is the Crazies a remake? They probably would not go, oh, the George A. Romero 1973 film?
No, I think that's probably one of his lesser known ones.
So as a result, I think it doesn't get a fair shake. It doesn't get the best release and promotion. But when people do find it, they're like, oh, I like this movie generally. I'm sure there are some people that this doesn't fucking work for. But for me, this is probably one of the best cases for remakes because you're adding elements to it that it's not necessarily that you're telling a different story. You're simply telling it differently. And you're adding some actors who are they're bubbling up underneath the surface towards like a high point in their careers.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Certainly, Timothy Olyphant is like the premier example of this. Rhoda Mitchell, I think, is an actress who got some raw deals along the way. But I like Danielle Panabaker in general. I don't know if she's given a ton to do here necessarily, but
she is kind of set up early on to be dead meat.
Yeah, and because someone's got to go. But I do think because you're centering this on, if you have awareness of the original, you think the really driving force of this is going to be Timothy Olyphant's David and his deputy Joe Anderson as Russell. Whereas it really becomes this sort of rescue mission about a couple who, we don't have, what we don't have here is like a bucket load of backstory about them because you don't really need it. What you do learn over the course of this is they've been trying to have a kid and now they're finally pregnant. And that's the backstory behind all of this. But we do see that their relationship does mean a lot to each of them. They are very dedicated to one another. And when other people give up on their family units, it sets off both of them. They are really understandably upset when other people are like, my life really means more to me than making sure the rest of my family is okay. You see other people crumble under that.
What I think is that, I do think that that's a refreshing, particularly from this period where there was like a really bizarre, mean-spirited streak to these movies in which the characters are always bickering and even before like things go down, it's like, okay, these people hate each other for no reason. Like, I don't even know what this adds to the plot. Yeah. But here, they're not like, starting out, on where their marriage is on shaky ground and they, have to reconcile in the midst of everything. No, they already love each other. Yeah. They're already committed to the idea of, both of us are getting out of this alive if it kills us.
And I think it comes down to the core, driving force of the movie and what I find most genuinely affecting about it. Because you have the town sheriff and the town doctor, right? You have the pillars of the community. Not, I don't say that in the most moralistic sense, but these are things you rely upon. You rely upon healthcare. You rely upon a sheriff to keep the law and keep people safe, ideally, right? And the first incident that happens in the film is David spies a person wandering on to opening day of the high school baseball team, wandering onto the field with a shotgun in his hand. And he has to go out and confront that person. Like, what are you doing? What's going on? He is not intending to go out there and shoot somebody dead. But obviously something is happening here. And he's the person who has to do something about it. And when that shotgun is turned on him, he shoots that person.
Right. And he's torn up about this.
He's affected by it.
Like, again, this is not some steely, action movie hero who's just, pep, just killing people left and right. Like, I think that he signed up for this job expecting to never have to hurt anyone.
Exactly.
Maybe had to put some teenage jerk had to put him in cuffs or something. But I think he was issued a pistol and never expected to have to use it.
He keeps it in a locked box. Like, that's not something he needs to do. He needs to keep the local hunters in check. He needs to keep people on the right side of the law. He's looking out for people. That is his drive as sheriff. And so the very idea that he has to shoot this person in front of what seems to be the vast majority of the town, it absolutely weighs on him. And then he's like, well, here's a person who, was for a long time the town drunk, but had, become sober. And then he's like, this is real. I can't believe that I had to do this. I can't believe that it came to this. This is not something I wanted. And then to learn that person did not have a blood alcohol level. He was just acting inexplicably violent, which again is kind of from, not that we weren't already having a quote unquote problem with guns by this point. Yes.
But, particularly now when it's gotten exponentially worse, it's kind of chilling. Like, this whole classic, we didn't know he was going to do this.
Yes. And he has access to firearms. And so he grabs that firearm. It's telling that this lack of impulse, this control, this desire to cause mayhem, this desire to kill lies dormant. And all Trixie does, that's the name of the chemical, all it does is simply, stop the barrier between you and those thoughts. And I feel like at its core, the movie has a sci-fi trapping, but it's really just about once people reach that edge, they're willing to do terrible things to other people. Once it starts, it doesn't so much stop. It's a real downhill with momentum in terms of society problem. And that the pillars, quote unquote, of the society, everything is crumbling down around them. The only things they can support at the end of the day is each other. And it's not like they're not trying. Right. They try throughout the movie to do the right thing and save themselves. Because that is as finely performed and displayed, it raises the level of quality of this movie beyond most of the remakes we've covered on the show.
Well, I think what also really helps is I genuinely love Timothy Olyphant as an actor. And I think that he's been kind of hovering for a while. And, I think he should be he may not want to be a much bigger star than he is. I mean, he's also been married to like his high school sweetheart. He has like 6 kids. So, I mean, he probably appreciates, not having to play that game all the time.
Yeah.
But like anytime I see him show up as something, I'm like,
I think he enjoys being a working actor. He likes a job.
Yeah.
He likes that it pays for things. He likes to do different stuff. And I think he enjoys the trappings of not being the biggest star in the world, but being the star in the world that when you see, you smile because you enjoy him. And
but like The Mandalorian, which I found to be a pretty solid overall show.
Yeah. But
his one episode remains my favorite episode.
Sure.
And I mean, and his hair in that, nobody since the cast of Lost Highway has had better hair than Timothy Olyphant in that episode of The Mandalorian. But I'm getting sidetracked just thinking about his nice silver hair.
Yes.
But he has an inherent warmth to him and decency that like the minute he appears on screen, I'm like, okay, I care about what happens to this character. And I mean, I don't know if they just, he again, like Dwayne Jones allegedly just happened to giving the best audition. Mm-hmm. I mean, this feels like if I was writing this script now, I would describe this character as a Timothy Olyphant type.
Yeah. Yes. And he makes you feel at ease. He seems like he radiates capability.
Yeah. He radiates calmness. It's just, and it's really, because for all the efforts that seem to be put into a lot of these remakes during this time, as far as casting, I'm not going to relitigate The Fog again. Yeah. It does seem like some actual thought was put into, who is the best actor for this character.
It does not feel as CW-fied as the vast majority of them.
No, this was like, these characters all in their 30s, maybe.
Right.
Minus the gal working for Rhoda Mitchell.
Yeah,
but
Danielle
she should have been young. She was like an office assistant.
Right, exactly. And that's where you do wonder, like, is there something to, the formula was tired and we didn't really enjoy the formula, but it obviously worked to a degree. The screamification of everything, of using your hottest TV stars to make a horror movie, does seem to be a formula that relatively works because horror is a young genre in general. But this movie is not trying to really do that. And I think some of the difficulty came in that it could not tell people the exact nature of its genre of horror. It could not communicate how action-based it was and how satisfying that would be. And as a result, people didn't quite know what to expect. And so they didn't buy enough tickets to it.
Right.
Sorry. Oswald apparently is joining a dog chorus.
I was going to say, does Oswald have opinions on the Crazies?
Oswald does have opinions on the Crazies. He's glad there's no dog death in it.
Yeah, shockingly, yeah.
But this is a movie that also has you don't get all the things I think you would normally expect. I think most of these movies would sit in the fact that they find this plane, they discover that the chemicals going downstream, and they're like, hey, we need to shut off this water. We go to the mayor, and the mayor goes, absolutely not. And then I think most movies would spend another half an hour building to where it goes. And 5 minutes later, shit is popping up. That Jaws element does not come into play.
No, this hits the ground running.
It really does. It just does not stop once it gets going. And it just communicates what you need to go, what you need moving forward, and then continues to develop the characters and their relationships to one another as the action proceeds. It's very smart and competent in that way. And I really appreciated the economy of its storytelling, but also the quality within that. They refined it down to the best ore. And then instead of taking long conversation scenes to make that play out, it really is simply incidents both in action and out of action. It's the best kind of comic book storytelling, if I'm to nail it down. So yeah, as soon as they know, okay, we shut off the water, maybe this is going to end our problems. The phone service is down, the cell service is down, and people are getting shot heading out of town. Ogden Marsh is isolated, it's cut off, and the military, I think to a certain degree, there are aspects of this that feel like pure 90s libertarian FEMA fever dream.
Right.
And it doesn't indulge in that too much. It's obviously very impersonal. They're not giving everyone any information about what's going on because that's not their job. Once the army moves in, they just start a medical protocol that's separating who they believe is infected from who they cannot tell are infected. And that's by checking everyone's temperatures, which Judy's is elevated because she's pregnant. And that's what gives us our first narrative drive, that David and Judy are separated, and David is pushed off to buses full of people who are going to be transported to a different location outside of the town. And Judy is put into a sort of medical ICU, which involves just strapping down people who are slowly going insane next to one another.
I mean, really, we're just all in that room right now.
Yes, ultimately. And I think when it comes down to it, what has continued to give the Crazies the most emotional resonance is it feels not like real life in how things play out necessarily, but it feels emotionally true.
Yeah, there's an authenticity to it that a lot of other remakes, not even this run of remakes in general seem to lack.
Yeah. And I also enjoy, not that I come to this for realism, but I do think there's a kind of realism within the scope of it, that these individual incidents are very harrowing and I think are very well executed. That sequence in the morgue with the bone saw fight is really brutal and really out of pocket, and I think really well done. And it comes from, having a physically compelling performer like Timothy Olyphant. And I think, from whatever else he's done, Breck Eisner came to play in the circumstance and makes this cramped room full of danger and that you're not prepared for what's about to happen. And it just escalates in a way that I find emotionally satisfying.
Oh, there are a number of incredible action scenes. I mean, my favorite is the car wash scene.
Yeah.
Which is so well done and so scary. And I think that may be the first and so far only horror movie sequence that takes place in a moving car wash.
I think so.
And I think it's so well done. My favorite part about it is when his deputy fires they're like slowly being pulled through the car wash. And the deputy fires his gun inside the car, which should make everybody stone deaf for a little while. And then then he says, I thought I saw something moving. And Timothy Olyphant says, everything is moving.
We're in a car wash. Everything is moving.
The way he says it and the expression on his face kind of reminds me of in Temple of Doom, when Indiana Jones is stuck in the thing and Willie is trying to get him out.
Yeah.
And he's like, we are going to die. And he just kind of makes this annoyed face at her, like, come on. It's like, and it kind of reminds me of that. Like, everything in here is moving.
Yeah. It's wild. That's where there's luck to this. There's a bit of kismet to it, right? Because I'm sure there are other people who could have pulled this off, but could you have found somebody in Timothy Olyphant's actor class who has the range, the gravitas, the audience comfort level to allow him to be calm in a crazy circumstance like that and not come off as cold stoicism? Right. And he's allowed, he just is able to blend that. Rhoda Mitchell has a competence to her throughout this that is born of her identity as a doctor. She's not just the prettiest woman you've ever seen. She's a very attractive woman. There's depth to all of these characters.
Right. There's an effort made here. There's effort, and it really comes through. Yeah. They take the time, to make you, they take time, but not too much, to establish who these characters are, what they mean to each other. And because some care and insight was taken into the casting, the audience is sort of drawn in relatively quickly.
Yeah. And it sets up an interesting maze dynamic to this, where there's so much open space, but now the open space becomes part of the thing you're trapped in. You can't hide in cornfields that aren't grown high. You can't hide in the corn. You're exposed throughout this. So you want to get out of town, you want to get a car, but you're the only car driving on the open road. Now you've just made yourself a target. There's all these elements to it that would seem to lessen the suspense, but they actually drive the suspense. And I just think that's a really interesting balance that's hard for a movie to do without replicating something else. I would not be amazed if in the next 10 to 15 years, someone remakes the Crazies again as a result of the cult of this growing.
Oh, sure. And there are quite a few books out right now that have like a sort of, both drawing that sort of standard plot and then connecting it, to current events. Mm-hmm. I think I haven't read it yet, but it is on my reading list. It's a book called Wake Up and Open Your Eyes. Mm-hmm. And it is basically about a young man who goes home to, I think, Virginia to visit his MAGA family, and chaos ensues. Mm-hmm. And I think that, you're going to, we're ripe for a sort of take on this. The main issue is you don't want it to be too on the nose, which could be that could be difficult to do.
Yeah.
Like I think a movie I would say suffers in that regard. I don't know. Did you see Mickey 17? I think it was called last year.
The director Boone.
It started out as a good concept, and then you bring in Mark Ruffalo's character, who is, trying a little too hard to be a Trump surrogate. Yeah. And then it becomes like you're being clobbered over the head with satire. And satire needs to be very subtle.
Yeah. Yes. And I don't, it's one of those things where I think within Korean cinema, they can balance those tones. Like I don't have an expectation for a singular tone within Korean cinema. Whereas in American cinema, you kind of have to pick two if you're going to blend and stick to those lanes. And you blend too many things together, it just ends up being a mishmash for whatever reason. And that just might be a societal thing for whatever reason that I perfectly accept that within Korean cinema, but I find it's hard to find as a winning formula within American cinema to do that. I'm glad he got the swing, but I also feel like, it came up a little short in that respect. As much as I enjoyed certain parts of that movie, I'd say it's a love it or you hate it sort of deal, in my guess, which isn't the worst thing to do.
No. I'm always here for polarizing movies. I was just talking the other day about Annette, Did you see Annette?
Yes. Well, you and Megan drove me to see Annette.
We are possibly the only two members of the Annette fan club.
Between that and Vox Lux, it's a very hardcore.
Exactly.
These were movies that, whether or not I wanted to see them or naturally were inclined to see them, if I was going to stay in the conversation, I needed to become aware of them.
You need to be brought into the fold.
Yeah, I couldn't stay on the meme end of them. If I needed to want to stay in the convo, I needed to educate myself. That was the impression I got from the conversation that was going down. And, I value your friendships. And so, yeah.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
To a certain degree, I do that as well. I forced you to watch movies you wouldn't naturally be inclined to cover on the show. Whether or not I'm the show's best producer is up for debate. But my formula for variety of the show is occasionally, well, once a month, forcing you to watch a movie you have zero inclination to watch. A la The Fog. But the conversation that comes out of it, I think, is worthy because you simply can. If we just talked about Suspiria and the Crazies and John Carpenter's The Thing and Cronenberg's The Fly for the whole month, right? These are all worthy movies, and I could talk about The Thing for another 5 volumes.
Of course.
But I don't know that we'd learn as much because at the end of the day, you have to have an outright stinker in the midst of this. And when you compare the two of Fog versus the Crazies, which I think are a more one-to-one comparison, because the Fog is at its core a siege picture. The Crazies is at its core a town under siege picture. And to see the variance between the two in terms of quality and execution, despite their one supernatural, one has a more sci-fi or, very grounded sci-fi aspect. That not regard, it's simply the quality of what you accomplished.
Yeah, they're like basically bookends on how to do it right and how to do it wrong.
Yes. And there's interesting moments within The Fog, but there's no tension to it. The characters are not there. There's nothing to Tom Welling's character that you can, hey, they really invested in him, his Nick Castle, the way they invest in Timothy Olyphant.
Boy, do I care about what happens to this protagonist whose name I can't even remember.
Right. Well, I only remember because it's Nick Castle, because it's a John Carpenter collaborator. That's the only reason that it sticks out is because it's an in-joke. This movie doesn't need in-jokes. That said, within it, there are subtle satirical commentary happening along the way. The mayor who has the pool in the middle of his cornfield says a lot. It's like water means everything to this people. You have a giant pool that no one else can enjoy. That is fucking wild. Of course you're the mayor of this fucking town. The fact that when David goes into the morgue and the person he finds underneath the sheet who's been strapped down and drugged and has had his eyes and mouth sewn together is the town clergyman. The fact that the military is outflanked and overcome by a truck carrying 5 guys in the staging area. 5 guys in one truck. They drive through a fence and all hell breaks loose as a result. That's all it takes for them to be out of control of the situation. And to me, that is at its core the hidden satirical layer. And then the final thing of the hunters who are hunting illegally, then getting infected and just collecting bodies over the course of the movie. It's just, all this stuff is baked into the movie at its core, but it's not the main dish. The main dish are these characters that we stay with. That's why we care when Rhoda Mitchell is strapped down to a gurney and a guy comes in with a pitchfork and just starts stabbing the fuck out of people.
And it's like such a tense scene.
Yeah.
And again, it's soundtracked by this person just cackling, and it's nightmarish.
It's just the quiet moments and the big audacious action moments all work in concert with one another. The scene in which they get the one military kid who's like, I didn't even know what state we were in until we saw the license plates. I don't know what the fuck is going on. This is not what I signed up to do. And that is obviously a very salient commentary about the military youth who were sent off packing to Afghanistan and Iraq in endless military quagmires, and that were, once we broke them, we had to buy them and could not extract ourselves from, is very salient. But again, not the main point of the movie. That is just a component of the main dish.
Yeah.
Anything else we need to say about 2010's rather successful remake of the Crazies?
Yeah, I think that if you're listening to the whole month of these and you feel Suspiria might be a little too esoteric for you, I don't blame you. It's very weird at times. I would say definitely give this one a watch. Mm-hmm. It's very exciting. It's pretty scary. And I tend to be someone who has seen enough horror movies at this point that I don't want to say, oh, nothing scares me. Certain things scare me less than others. But I think that, again, particularly this car wash scene is so creepy, and just everything just goes to hell so fast. And then they're trapped because you can't get out of the car because you're going to get wiped out by
the machinery, and the car can't drive away because the wheels are trapped.
Like you're at the mercy of how unbelievably slow this track moving the car to the car wash is. And it's just like, you watch it, you're like, how did nobody think of this before?
Yeah. Well, I would direct you to a not so fantastic action sequence from the 2000s TV adaptation of the Mod Squad. Also has such a fun action sequence in a car wash. It's not as good. I think it's the only thing people like about it besides the cast. That movie is thank goodness we're not doing action, because that would be a hell of an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like the film. I really like the casting. This would give you the illusion that Breck Eisner, under the right circumstances, can make a good movie. And just, it's made at the wrong time. But if you made it any earlier, undoubtedly, I think any other set of people who would have made it would have cast a Tom Welling aged character as the sheriff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And it wouldn't have made any they're having trouble conceiving. That's okay. They're in their mid-20s. You've got time.
You don't get that. You don't get the sense that time is running out for them on a number of levels.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of meaning and care to how this turned out, and I want to drive the cult of this movie. I think it's worthy of people's time and attention. And hopefully people enjoy this so that next year we can include maybe some of the bigger ticket items that we haven't covered in terms of remakes onto this. Cronenberg's Fly being, I think, the big thing that we didn't put on the schedule, but I think we wanted to champion some that weren't of that level, right?
We didn't want to go for the obvious choices.
Yes. But I'm also denying people some obvious choices. Like, I could have given people The Fly. But I want people to see Suspiria. I want people to see the Crazies. These are things that you may have avoided that I think are well worth your time and attention. And then The Fog, that's a warning sign. And next.
Don't. Yeah, that's an example where like, this is how you don't do it.
Next week though, Gina, we have the wildest fucking swing of all time when it comes to remakes, because we are going to discuss the blank check, the remake, 1998 remake, Gus Van Sant, Psycho. One of the wildest fucking experiments ever committed to film. And I think something very worthy of discussion, because regardless of how you feel about the end product, I think the experiment of it is the ultimate test of remakes. I think it is both a film unto itself, but also just simply a commentary of whether or not there's any worth in remaking a film. And as such, I think is a document of both the concept at large and an interesting sliver in time of a filmmaker who could have done anything and chose to do this.
Plus, we get to talk about masturbation noises.
Oh, our favorite. How will it squeak? How will it flap? How much skin on skin noise will be involved? Is it inexplicably wet sounding before wetness is introduced? Why does that tree get struck by a lightning? What the fuck does that mean? That's not something that's ever flashed through my mind while approaching orgasm. I can tell you that. And yet,
it's like, what did they was Jeremy Davies or Edward Norton not available to cast in this movie?
We're going to get into all of it. I think that is a movie that, I don't want to waste it here, but please tune in for that, because we're going to have an interesting guest. And that movie is worthy of deep dive discussion. But of course, what also is worthy of deep dives is Choosing Your Own Deathventure. And that's where we decide of the many, many, many deaths portrayed in 2010's The Crazies. If you were forced to die in one of those ways, which one would it be and why? You can be shot on a baseball field during opening day, buried alive inside your home, unsuccessfully parachute from a plane, land in the trees, have your arteries severed by a bone saw, gunfight in the eval area, pitchforked while strapped to a gurney, shot in the street. We do have a get bunked here, Gina.
We do.
We do, in that Sheriff David is able to kill somebody with a knife that's already shoved through his hand. He shoves it into her neck. That is technically a get bunked. I did not expect it, did not remember it, so I found that delightful. You can just be shot through the heart. You can be shot in a car wash. You can be mangled by car wash machinery. You can have your neck broken by a hose wrapped around your neck and dragged out of a car. Get shot at a military checkpoint, massacred by the military inside of a transport truck. They're both shot and lit on fire. You can just get plugged in the head inside the cab of a truck, lit on fire inside of a maintenance bay, and assumingly die in a nuclear blast. Spoiler alert. Gina, what say you?
You know, and I've spent quite a bit of time in the past couple of months laying on various gurneys and hospital chairs and all.
True.
So I don't necessarily want this death, but I feel like the most likely death is getting pitchforked while strapped to a gurney. I'm probably going to be the one maniacally laughing. Let's face it.
Asking for it, as it were. Please take me out of this. No, I can totally see this. I'll tell you which one I'm not choosing. Die in a nuclear blast. Because if there's one thing I'm still having nightmares about, it's that. Thank you, 80s media and, the military-industrial complex. I'm certainly not getting parachuted or bone sawed. I guess just shot through the heart. You know what? Just shot.
It's quick. It's quick.
It's not fancy. It's not cool. It's not lit on fire in a maintenance bay. But again, I don't want to burn. We've had that discussion. It's not something I'm into. All right. But that just about does it. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and pop culture and sometimes current events on my newsletter, GinaWatchesThings.ghost.io. And while I'm taking a break from social media for the most part, you can find me on Instagram under Gina Does Things.
Of course, please sign up for Scream Share, my newsletter in which I help you sort your weekend horror streaming needs and try to bring together the community as a whole. The second Friday of every month, I'm going to be putting a virtual watch party together to bring people together to all watch a movie together and talk about it. And I would love for you to join us for those efforts. Of course, you can support us on Patreon and support the show financially to help us keep the show going, keep it free for everyone else. You can find the show on most social medias, with the exception of Twitter, fuck that place, at Kill by Kill Pod. And you can talk back to us on YouTube. Please subscribe there, even if you don't listen there. And talk back to us there or on Spotify, or email us at killbykillpod@gmail.com. Rate and review us on iTunes or the podcatcher of your choice. If you tell me what your favorite horror movie death is of any of the movies we've covered, I'll talk about it here on the podcast. That's my solemn promise to you, the Kill by Kill listener. Hey, I remembered my spiel. And don't worry, folks. The body count will continue with Psycho for myself and for Gina. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
They're all gonna laugh at you.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA is heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.